Hello? It has been a while. If you're new here, hi, my name is Karis. I'm an artist and creature creator, and I predominantly make these little guys called worrywart. They're a tiny sad friend that you can tell your troubles to, and boy, do I have a lot of them. Troubles and tiny clay guys. I have a bin where I keep all the scraps from my sculptures that are left over, and today I'm gonna shut my eyes, shove my hands in, see what I can get, and then make something entirely new out of it. Okay, let's go have some fun. I feel like you need it. I need it.
I wonder how much this weighs. Okay, we have this. Oh my God, wait. I'm gonna turn it on first.
Old? Yes, I am.
I believe that old is abbreviation for overloaded. Well, this feels like a good clump. Brown. Oh no, it looks like if a dog ate the crayons. Let's continue. I'm gonna be a poop Picasso. All right, this is bad. What are we gonna do? We have some colors here, but not many. If I get a bag of brown, guys, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm very nervous about what's about to happen. Yeah! There's still a lot of brown in here though. I don't know what we're gonna do. This is our trash haul. I'm gonna pull out as much as I can. I'm gonna make a new rule. I'm gonna add an extra rule to this. I have to use all 3 of the browns, and I have to use all. This one is particularly unpleasant. I am going to process all of these colors through my pasta maker so that they are all uniform, and then I'll know exactly what color palette I'm going to have to work with. I think I'm starting to get an idea of what I might try and make. This has such beautiful patterns in it, like some sort of rock or mineral. My initial reaction to all this brown, it's not as dire as I thought. It's nowhere near. Look, that's actually really balanced. It's like a balanced, muted color palette.
When I was thinking about things that I like that are brown, a cuckoo clock came up. I was thinking it'd be really cool if we revisited the concept of kinetic sculptures. We did our own moving sculpture a couple of years ago where I put a crank, there was a bat that was flapping its wings. And if I need any added extra color, I can pull from this literal bag of tricks. Now that all of our clay has been processed and put through the pasta maker, it's time for me to actually figure out how I'm going to be putting this project together. Part of the extra challenge of today was not reaching for this bag because I wanted to embrace all of the brown. For the main portion of our cuckoo clock, I actually had this frame that I had picked up from IKEA, and I'd also picked up some paint sticks. I know that we're making things majority out of clay, but having a solid base that I'll be able to prop up or hang on the wall was really important. To start off getting the cuckoo clock shape, I marked out on the corners where I wanted this to be cut, and my husband was nice enough to slice off the corners for me before I started trying to figure out how we were going to get the moving elements inside. For the story inside of our cuckoo clock, I thought that it would be interesting if I did sort of like scattered moths and butterflies, because moths can be both brown and also colorful. So on the inside, we are going to have a bunch of very colorful moths and colorful things going on, and on the outside, we're going to very fully embrace the brown. The reason that I decided to build our project out of these paint sticks is because it's very easy for me to drill little holes and adjust them later. So I've got a little bit of a snag with this initial prototype. I was trying to secure this here. I think the wires are a bit too tight, so when this is turning, all of it's turning, and I remember the last time I did this was an issue. So I think actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some little ball bearings here, and those ball bearings out of polymer clay are going to be how I'm going to move the thing, so that instead of the wires just going with it, when it's turned, it will kind of stay up. The ball bearings will make it slide upwards, because as you can see, these are really stuck, and they keep stabbing me every time. I made our ball bearing pieces for the kinetic sculpture out of some clay, and while those were baking, I got to work putting together the base for our cuckoo clock. Again, because I'm going to be trying to prop this thing up and hang it on a wall and also have a moving element, I felt like maybe we needed a little bit of a wood structure underneath with some extra stability, because clay is stable, but it's not that stable. Just like me.
Yeah, that works way better.
Now that I actually had the wire mechanism worked out, it was time for me to build the blueprint of the wings and see how we were going to be able to get them to flap and move. They was a little bit different than the bat wings.
You're having a little bit of a difficult test for There is a definite room for improve.
Oh. Now that we sort of had a handle on how things were going to be moving, it was time for me to solidify the shape of our cuckoo clock, and that's actually the reason that I was using these paint sticks, because they are very easy to snap and you don't need a saw. I haven't revealed the concept to you guys yet, but inside the clock there's going to be a moth going towards a flame, and I ordered some candles online that flicker by themselves so that we can pull them apart and then utilize their mechanisms. Okay, so the candles are here. This is the little flicky element that I wanted. I'm gonna have to figure out how to dissect all of this and then put it into my own casing, because this is way too big for the diorama. I guess it's time for pliers. Maybe just some concrete? That could be fun. About to get mad at me in the comments? Don't. We all deserve to smash things sometimes.
I'm not a very violent person. Oh, it's working. See? Yeah. Oh yeah, there we have it.
Now that I had the candle element figured out, it was time for me to try and see how our two characters were going to interact with a little bit of weight.
Eureka! It's flapping! Oh!
I still had some stuff to figure out.
Game plan update. Now that we have got this, I'm gonna put a little bit of a hole in the backing here so that I will have a way to feed it through. This is gonna go here, and then we'll have this over here. Ta-da! And the battery pack is gonna move onto the back here and hopefully be housed in the very back. Nice and neat and tidy.
Now that I had figured out the inner mechanism for our cuckoo clock, it was time for me to start working on the outside and making a template so that I would be able to see how everything that was moving in the interior would look when we'd sculpted the exterior. I started out by tracing our framework on a piece of paper and making sure that I had nice bold lines before I cut it out so that I would be able to flatten out some of our clay. And then with the paper piece over top, I cut out with an X-Acto knife so that I would have the appropriate sized window so that when we had finished sculpting everything, we would be able to see what was going on inside. I'm actually so glad that I decided on this concept because it put every shade of brown that I had to use. And basically the concept that we are going for is the exterior of this cuckoo clock is going to be every single shade of brown. And I asked you guys over on Instagram whether you wanted me to do a Baba Yaga theme or a moth theme. And the concept that I came up with is that the exterior is going to be all brown because there are tons of different types of brown moths. And then inside of the heart, like inside of love, there's going to be all of this bright color, and we're going to utilize that to showcase some bright moths and butterflies. I also thought, because I am planning on having a lighted element in this, that it would be really cool if we had some windows that would be able to have a little bit of that light reflecting and coming through. I had started to realize at this point that it was looking a little bit like the cuckoo clock was made out of some Swiss chocolate, and so I thought it would be nice to kind of lean into that a little bit, and I embellished it with some molds that I had from my stash. And also for our center embellishment, I decided that I was going to make a chocolate-looking rose with all three of the different colors of brown that we had, and make sure that every divot was full and looked like lace. The three different shades of brown that we had really ended up emphasizing like white milk and like a sort of caramel chocolate, and I was happily surprised by the outcome. Since we were done our exterior, it was time for us to move on to the interior characters, and I was making a moth that is loosely based on the rose maple moth, not exactly the same because I don't have the right colors. And then for our candle, I can't actually put the mechanism into the oven, so I covered it in cling film and then sculpted everything over top. I popped those two pieces into the oven to bake, and then it was time for me to actually figure out the completed version of our wings. Now I know we're making this out of clay, but at this point it is a mixed medium project, and I really felt like watercolor was the way to go if I was going to be emulating the rose maple moth. Plus, I'm sure that we could have a whole nightmare-fueled video where we try to get clay to turn itself into a kinetic sculpture. Paper is just so much easier and more flexible at moving, so you know what? I was already doing like 5 hard things. Don't ask me to do any more hard things. Once I had the first pass of the watercolor all cut out and dried, I flipped it over and then did the other side so that when it was flapping, there wouldn't be anything unsightly happening, and I started to work on the background from our piece. For this colorful window that we are going to be peering through, I chose sky blue as the background and then dotted a bunch of different sort of prismatic rainbow colors around because this is where the candle's gonna be sitting, and I figured it would refract the light magically. Or at least that's what the moth is seeing. It's just like burning stuff, but the moth is like, wow, you're so good at life. Amazing. Now, I kind of messed up here. I made the casing for the candle too big to go inside the diorama, so I had to slice the back of it off in order to get it to fit, and you're seeing a very cautious surgical process. At this point, it was being held together with a lot of hot glue and hope, as, you know, things often are, but I did figure out a way to get our candle to fit, and so I painted the rest of the wood and began the assembly process. Now, in order to get the wings of our moth to work, I used some little link pieces and popped some holes through the wings. I had already previously attached a little metal clasp to the back of our character, and I used that metal clasp to create a pulley system that was crudely crafted with some like fishing wire before attaching all of the wires to the wings with a little bit of some clear tape. Once I had everybody assume the position, I attached our front panel as delicately as I possibly could. And now that I had the base of everything sorted out, it was just time for me to fill in a bunch of the gaps so that everything was looking like it was one uniform piece. That includes whimsical moss curtains, my friends. Could you imagine how disgusting moss curtains would be in your house? Like Siberian tussock moths would be hiding in there. You wouldn't be able to protect your yarn. But in this whimsical, magical world, moss curtains are a happy addition.
Does this one look a little bit like Italy to anybody else? Maybe?
Since we didn't have a lot of color inside of our scrap pile, to make it look like it was convincingly colorful, I had to use our pieces very sparingly. For the extra addition to our cuckoo clock, it would not be complete without those little clock testicles. That's what we're calling them, because I don't know what else to call a dangly thing that hangs off of a clock. If you know in the comments what those are called, you please let me know, because otherwise I'm just gonna go around calling them clock testicles for the rest of my life. After all that, I had finally finished sculpting all of our filler pieces, and so I attached them and made sure that everything was still going to be in working order. And now it's finally time to see how much clay we used.
So this is everything that we have left over after finishing our cuckoo clock. We used almost all of our brown, and that was the main challenge of this video. I wanted to use as much of the brown as humanly possible because I'd done so much complaining about it at the beginning. I accepted it as my personal challenge to make something very brown, and I think we went to town. I'm gonna ball all this up and put it back in the bin for next time, and now it's time for the Moody Glamour shot. Enjoy!
And there we have it, friends. I actually managed to pull off my concept pretty well, clock testicles and all. And I do have a final surprise for you guys. I actually managed to figure out a way to make this UV and glow in the dark. So, you know, we did like a quadruple whammy with this project. I really wanted to challenge myself with the brown, and I feel like we came out the other side. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day. Be nice to each other and take care of yourselves, okay? I love you. Bye!